Sometimes you have to remember that when you have to interact with your ex, you just have to play your part. Inevitably, whenever you're forced into a situation where you have to be at the same location with your ex, either for a school function, a party of some sort, or graduation, whatever it is, and more than likely, you are going to be dreading it. You're not going to be looking forward to it. You're not going to want to do it. And it's going to give you a lot of anxiety. But if you can approach it as if you're just playing a part, that you're just playing a role, the role of a parent that isn't enmeshed in the nightmare that you are, it can help you get through it. Now, I'll tell you that every time I have to have an interaction with my ex and with my oldest son, coming up to graduating and the different things that happen with that, such as prom and graduation and whatnot, it's forcing a lot of interactions where I'm having to be in the same location with the ex. Now, the problem with that is, well, there's a bunch of problems, but there's the two different parts of how this works. And what I mean is that in my situation, which might be yours, privately, it's a mess. The emails are condescending and the communication is really terse and there's very little compromise and there's very little information exchange. And if I'm not doing exactly what she wants to do, then there's all kinds of drama associated with it. Now, in my situation, you have that private communication, but the public facade is that everything is fine, that there is no problem, that, there's no issues, right? Even in the beginning of this, whenever you had the court part of it where, on paper and in court, she's saying that I'm a danger to the kids and stuff like that. In public, it was always as if everything was fine. Now, I know some of you might be going through that. And I'll tell you that it's really a hard thing to deal with. Someone had asked the other day in one of the comments of an example of gaslighting, and I think that's a pretty good example of it. It's where in one scenario, they're telling everyone, either through court or even privately to people, how bad you are and how much of a monster you are. And then in public, the reaction to you is not the same, right? And that goes along the lines of what I've talked about in the past, where these people can morph to whatever the situation is, and it's no different. Now, if that is your situation, if that's the scenario you find yourself in, you're in a little bit of an advantage, because when you do have to interact in public, typically that drama that's happening behind the scenes, that's happening either via text, via email, and potentially even phone calls, is not going to manifest itself in public. So in that situation, my belief is that they want to be there just as little as you do. Now, not all situations are the same. You might be in a situation where maybe that vitriol bleeds over into public, and if that's the case, then that complicates things significantly. Now, the benefit to that is their behavior in public can also be used against them in court, because you can have clear evidence of how they're acting. So typically a covert is not going to do anything in public to expose themselves to a large group of people. They'll do it in private, and they'll do it just one-on-one with you, so that they can maintain that. Basically what they can do is they can try to gaslight you. They can push your buttons where no one's looking. And then whenever someone is looking, hopefully you're going to explode. You're going to act, not your part. You're going to act, well, I guess a better way to say it is you're going to finally react to what they're doing. And then they'll be able to just sit back, take what your action is, and use it against you. So you have to be really careful of that. So either way, even if you have a situation where they do try to poke at you at one in public when you're in meetings, or not meetings, but in those type of situations. And when I say that they may not do some things, they probably will, and do the little minor subtle things to try to get under your skin. You just have to basically try to ignore that and get through the event. You basically have to play your part, that you just kind of let it roll off your back and not worry about it. Now, here's the other thing that you need to mentally prepare yourself in these particular situations. And that is, no matter what they do, it's going to irritate you. And what I mean by that, with what I was just talking about, if they push your buttons, it's going to irritate you. If they act like everything is fine, it's going to irritate you. If they get in there in your face, or get in your face, it's going to irritate you. So there's really, not a win situation in this, because you're going to get stuck in this thing where no matter what happens, you're going to get frustrated. The event I had the other day is a prime example of that. She acted, there's all this back end stuff going on, trying to figure out summer stuff, and she acts like everything's fine. She wants to do something. I sent her a compromise, and at the end of the day, I don't know whether she's agreeing to it or not, because the communications has stopped. So what I'm saying on that is just prepare yourself for it. Prepare yourself that there's no way that this situation is going to go where you're going to be like, wow, that was a really pleasant experience. I'm really glad it went that way. More than likely, that's not going to happen, because if you're at this stage where you're looking for information on these websites and YouTube channels, and you're frustrated, you are going to be, you have that underlying anger and frustration that you're stuck with because of all the annoying things that they've done to you, to your children, just to this situation. The fact that they won't co-parent, the fact that everything is just a mess. So when you're there, stay busy and stay focused on what you're there for. So, take a camera or something. So if there's a reason to take pictures of your kids, do that. If you can, bring a friend so that you have someone to talk to, interact with, so that there's not just dead time. And just try to muscle through it as best you can. Now, in my situation, Debbie was with me because she played a big part in this getting the prom thing together. So, I had the person, my anchor, I guess if you want to say that. The kids, all my kids were there to see my son go. Fortunately, the person he's taking, I know her mom from work and stuff. So, there was other things that I could distract myself with communication. So I didn't really have to sit there and try to have a lot of conversation with my ex. Now, I played the part. I didn't act angry. I didn't give her, dirty looks. I didn't make little one-off snarky comments or anything like that. I was as polite as I possibly could be. And, we did what we needed to do. We took the pictures, we saw them off, and then we left. And then that's the last part about this. When the event's over, just don't linger. Don't give them or yourself an opportunity to have an elongated conversation or interaction, because there's a good possibility that nothing is good is going to come from it. That either they're going to say something to irritate you, or you're going to say something to irritate them, and it'll just degrade from there. Now, I've gone through those situations in the past as well, where, I tried to have conversations, I tried to have some type of dialogue, and it typically degraded into a mess to where one of us just left. So if you can remember when you're dealing with this, just to play that part, just to focus on, the illusion that you're trying to portray, that everything is fine. And I know that's going to go against your nature, because everything isn't fine. Things aren't going well. You don't even want to be around this person, but it's not going to accomplish anything to really get stressed and frustrated about that. And I'll tell you, in this particular situation, as things degraded leading up to this event, which it ultimately turned out fine, I was getting to the point where I didn't really want to even go. It was getting to the point that it was like, I don't even want to be there. I don't want to have to interact with it. I don't have to want to deal with it. But I focused on what was going on. I was focused on what the event was. I played my part and was able to get through it, and everything went pretty good. And the final thing I'll tell you on this is, if typically, as long as they don't turn, as long as they kind of stay within that illusion of trying to maintain that illusion of everything is fine, if you can do that, and then once it's over, you're going to feel a lot better. It's like doing something that you don't really want to do, but once you get through it, you feel better about it, and this falls into that category. And the bad part about this is it falls back into one of my previous videos where I was talking about being present for your children, where you need to, to be there or be available as much as possible. And had I not shown up, or had I, stayed away from this situation, then there could have been the secondary outcome of this where, I would have avoided the stress and anxiety from it, but then maybe my kids, all of my kids, could have potentially, not understood why I was, boycotting the event or not being there. Now, this one was a little bit weird, different, because it could have been, with it being prom, but in a few weeks, I have my son's graduation coming up, and, I've been stressed and anxious about that. But at the end of the day, I mean, if I don't go, you can't undo that. So, and I know there's more complexity of what's going on for me in that particular situation, but it's along the same lines. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go play my part, focus on the event, and then leave. So if you want to add to the discussion about how you've had to play the part, how you've had to basically fake it to interact with your ex, leave it in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel and you like more videos like this, please subscribe. If you subscribe and you hit the bell, it'll actually notify you when things come up, as opposed to not. Otherwise, YouTube just randomly decides what to remind people of. It's kind of weird. I don't know why they do that, but that's what happens. And I will chat with you guys in the next video. So take care. Bye.